In the busy streets of Buenos Aires, what started as a normal day quickly turned into chaos. The local police station got an urgent call. Bank Oreo was being robbed. The criminals were armed and dangerous, and they had taken over the entire bank. Immediately, the police rushed to the scene, heavily armed, and surrounded the building. The whole area was crawling with cops, snipers on the rooftops, everyone ready for a showdown. Inside the bank, it was pure madness. 23 hostages were trapped with 5 robbers. The police outside could hear a lot of noise from the top floor and assumed that's where the action was happening. But they didn't storm in right away, worried the robbers would start killing hostages if they did. Instead, they tried to negotiate using a megaphone to ask the robbers to surrender. The only reply? A gunshot. The robbers made it clear over the phone, if the police tried anything, the hostages would die. Hours went by, tensions were sky high. Then, in a surprising move, the robbers let 2 hostages go. This gave the police hope that maybe the others would be freed too. But as the day dragged on, there was nothing. No more hostages released, and the robbers went completely silent. At this point, the police had no choice. They had to go in. When the police team finally broke into the bank, they were ready for a fight. But instead, they found something totally unexpected. All the hostages were alive, and not a single one was hurt. The robbers, gone. Just like that. The cops had blocked every exit, had snipers covering the roof, but somehow the criminals had vanished. This was no ordinary heist. This was a masterpiece. The heist of the century, planned by a man named Araujo. A young mastermind from Buenos Aires, Araujo had always dreamed of pulling off the ultimate bank robbery. But, unlike others, he didn't just dream, he studied. For years, Araujo watched movies, documentaries, and news reports, learning from every mistake other robbers had made. He assembled a team of 5. Among them were seasoned criminals and a tech genius who could outwit even the most sophisticated security systems. Together, they came up with a plan so clever, it threw the police completely off track. They knew robbing the bank at night would set off all the alarms, so they decided to hit it in broad daylight when nobody would expect it. That morning, Araujo and his crew casually walked into Bank Oreo, armed and ready to go. Within minutes, they had everyone inside under control, forcing them to lie on the floor. Meanwhile, the police surrounded the building, thinking they had the robbers trapped inside. While 2 of Araujo's guys made noise on the top floor to distract the police, the others were downstairs cleaning out the vault. The cops, convinced the robbery was happening upstairs, stayed put, afraid of risking the hostages' lives. Little did they know, Araujo and his team were already making their way out. So, how did they escape? That's where Araujo's real genius came in. He and his crew had dug a tunnel under the bank weeks before the heist, leading straight into the city's sewage system. It was their secret escape route. After clearing out the vault and wiping away all traces of their presence, they slipped into the tunnel and crawled to safety. Waiting for them underground were boats. They cruised through the sewage canals far away from the bank, where a car was parked, ready to take them out of the city. Meanwhile, the police were focused on the getaway car parked right outside the bank, thinking it was part of the plan. By the time the cops entered the building, Araho and his crew were long gone, watching the whole thing on TV in their house and celebrating. The cops, they were left with nothing. No clues, no evidence. The robbers had even wiped out their DNA traces with chemicals. To throw the police off even further, Araho's team had stolen credit cards from the hostages, scattering them across the city. Every time someone tried to use one, the police would chase a false lead, only to come up empty-handed. It looked like the perfect crime. The robbers had disappeared without a trace, and weeks went by without a single break in the case. The Buenos Aires police were left humiliated. But no heist is ever truly perfect. One of the robbers, Beto, couldn't keep his secret. In a moment of weakness, he told his wife, Alicia, everything. At first she was terrified, but after some time she forgot it, thinking about how rich they were going to be. Things seemed fine, until Beto noticed that some money was missing. He and Alicia had a big fight about this, but after a couple of days they patched things up. At least, that's what Beto thought. Alicia, however, wasn't ready to forgive and forget. In a fit of revenge, she went to the police and spilled the whole story about the heist. The next day, Beto and Alicia went for a drive, and Beto had no clue what was coming. The cops were ready, waiting for Alicia's signal. As the couple drove down a quiet street, police cars appeared out of nowhere and surrounded them. Beto was arrested on the spot, totally blindsided by his wife's betrayal. Within weeks, Araho and the rest of the crew were rounded up and caught. The heist of the century was finally over, all because of a grudge. But the story of that legendary robbery lives on, a reminder of how even the most brilliant criminals can't escape the consequences forever.